Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for waiting. I know you've all been eagerly anticipating tonight's live. Thank you all for turning up early, and I do apologize about our late start. Technology and time zones and everything got in the way of an on-time start this evening, but we're here. And I think you all know why we're here. We're here to talk to Carol. We're here to hear Carol's story. We've got Josh and we've got Matt as well, and we'll get straight to that in just a minute. So I just want to thank everyone for their support, and I just want to make everyone know that this platform is letting everybody speak. We're not looking for anybody's input this evening. We're going to let Carol tell her story, and then depending on how Carol feels, we may do another evening where if you want questions answered, we can do that. But certainly we're going to stay on Carol's story this evening. And yeah, I'm just waiting for this stream to connect on.
Oh, it's good. I've already seen it.
You got it. Yeah. So we're live and we're going through. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, awesome. Now listen, if you guys can all leave a like on this, if you can share this, post it in the various groups that are there, that would be awesome. And what I'll do now, without any further ado, is I'll bring the rest of our panel out, and we can start our evening. So. Few familiar faces. We've got Cap and Josh, and of course Carol. So welcome, Carol, and thank you very much for coming this evening. And I know you've been you've been a little bit nervous, I think is probably the best way of putting it. And I just want to say thank you from all of us for doing this. And you know, we'll just jump straight in because I know these streams tend to run on, and I'd rather have as much Carol in this as possible. So yeah, so why don't we start at the beginning? Let's pretend that you and I have no idea who you are. Tell me who you are and how you fit into the McKinney Manor story.
Well, my name is Carol, and Russ was my boyfriend, and I lived in Arizona, and he wooed me into moving to San Diego, and I lived with him there for 15 years. And we started the boo haunt in the backyard, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah.
But I also knew him back in 1977 when we were seniors. We kind of dated.
That's right. You met in high school, and then there was a period
where college. And we worked together at Disneyland.
Okay.
And things were a lot different. So.
It's quite contrasting imagining Russ McKinney working at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Right. I'll be honest with you, with like Ross McKinney with the background in Disney work, it's quite a surprise if I'm being honest with you. But 15 years is a long time, and I know that you're you've not been exempt from Ross McKinney's damaging touch throughout that 15 years. And I know we are going to touch on that, but I want to build up a little more. Like when you and Russ, how did the McKinney Manor, the idea of that, when was that born for you and for Russ?
Well, it was a long time before me, because even when he was on his military ship, he would have little haunts and stuff like that. I'm not quite sure at what point he started calling it McKinney Manor. I don't believe that it was a long time before I came there. He had like a very small walk-through haunt through the backyard.
Sure.
That was kind of silly. And when I got there, we just kind of blew it all up, and we're constantly working in it and decorating it and going to yard sales and rummage sales and thrift shops, trying to find anything that would fit into this haunted attraction.
Now, Josh, I know you've got quite a good relationship with Carol. I know you've got quite a lot of knowledge on Carol's story. With regards to the sort of beginning of Carol and Russ's relationship, is there anything that you want to bring in and touch on or ask Carol about that period?
Like I guess kind of the stuff that people say about him, like the tendencies that a lot of people say that he had, the sociopathic type stuff as well. Was that showing it at all back when you two first met?
No, not in the very beginning. He was excellent at hiding what was going on in his noggin.
Yeah.
But his ex-wives had warned me about it. And I'm like, oh, whatever. He's fine, you know. And then probably a year into it, it's like he couldn't hold it in anymore. And hell began. I mean,
And what was the sort of first stages in, I guess, the main?
he was obsessed with the guy who touched him when he was a kid.
Okay.
He wanted me to go up to Orange County, which is up by Disneyland, which it's about an hour and a half away. And he wanted me to go kill this guy for him. And if I didn't do that, then I must not love him. That kind of thing.
And how insistent was that? Was that a one-time event?
No.
We asked you to do that?
No. And then just a lot of OCD tendencies. But I've never known that OCD directed on somebody else to do things repeatedly. Like going in and out of the front door 50, 60 times before it was okay for him to let me in the house. If I was...
Were these actual occurrences?
Yes.
Yeah.
Daily.
For 15 years?
Yes.
And that was his OCD?
Yes. Not mine. I don't have OCD.
Yeah, you don't have OCD, so you're having to do 50, 60 entries just to appease. That's just getting into the house. What was the result of you not conforming to that?
Oh, anger. You don't care. You don't love me. You don't take care of me. And then he would get really mad. He would storm out of the house and be gone for hours in his truck. He would go to the movies and watch movie after movie, like bounce from theater to theater. And then he would come back like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. But it also started out when he would take off like that. If I didn't go look for him, that was even worse because then I didn't care again. So spent a lot of hours driving down to the movie theater, you know.
Yeah, it's multiple layers of control and
Oh yeah. Well, and then like if I went to functions, like I went to a Greyhound function and I took his movie camera because I wanted to film the doggies.
Yeah.
We were at a reunion kind of thing, not for Operation Greyhound, but we were at a reunion because somebody had lost one of their greyhounds. They had just gotten it, had gotten out, and a whole bunch of us went searching the hills for this dog. So at the 1 year reunion, we all got back together, and he kept calling me at this function saying that if I didn't come home immediately with the camera, he was going to call the police and have me arrested for stealing it. Just stuff like that all the time.
I mean, that just sounds so like as if your entire life is in a box.
My entire life was walking on eggshells because he could find something wrong with anything that I said or did. And then when he got into texting and videoing all these girls, if I tried to take the phone away from him because I was so sick of it, then he would ask them to call the police too.
Before we touch on the other girls, right? Because I heard you talk about that with Josh about how he'd be online and talk. I mean, how long did that go on for? Was that, or do you feel like it was always there and at one point he admitted it?
When he got famous.
Okay.
Especially when this movie was going to be made. Well, maybe Making Monsters maybe started it, but when his ego just went crazy, and any woman who contacted him was like his instant girlfriend. He could have a dozen of them at a time.
Okay.
And it was just constant Skyping. And now his office backed up to the bedroom. And so I'm sitting in bed and I can hear every single word. And it's so hurtful and destructive.
Of course it is.
To me. And if I would go in there and ask him to stop, he would scream at me. He would stop the camera. He would scream at me. And then if I started to cry, he would chase me with his camera and say, "See how she is? See it? Look at." I wasn't even allowed to cry for what was happening to our relationship. He just thought it was a big joke.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, the multiple layers of abuse and control. And again, whether it stems from his mental health or not, it just seems that every time we peel back another layer, there's another a form of control and abuse that he's dishing out in every possible angle. Like, if you're lying in your bed listening to your partner talking in that way to someone else on Skype, it must further just back up he must have removed your self-worth and your ability to, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying the ability to stand up for yourself, but certainly
you can't stand up for yourself. You're not allowed to say anything. It's his way or no way. You can't, because then you're a monster for saying something, or you're a horrible person. It just every day. And I can't say that for probably 5 years, I will just say, I think there is not one single day that he did not make me cry.
Wow.
So, I mean, and I saw what he did. I saw what he did to Lindsay. I actually had, like her, blocked out a lot of stuff because he had me do the disciplining of her. He wouldn't do it. He would tell me what he wanted me to say. Then when I'd say it, he'd be mad at me. Lindsay would be crying, and it was a nightmare, just a living nightmare every single day. If I didn't do what he wanted, like work on the hunt, if I wasn't out there at 11, 12 o'clock at night working on the hunt, I wasn't passionate enough. I wasn't this, I wasn't that. And it gets really destructive.
And did you, was the level of control and the level of aggression, did you ever feel like if you didn't comply, you were in serious, legitimate danger? Did you ever feel
every day
could just end up?
I mean, like Holly said, he threatened he was going to go buy a gun and he was going to kill me. He said that to me several times. And if I didn't do what he wanted me to do, then the suicide threats would come in. He actually did that one time in front of Lindsay and expected her as a, 7 or 8 year old to comfort him and get him out of the suicide mode. And other times he would run into the garage, and the garage was part of the haunt, and he would get up on a ladder and fake that he was going to hang himself to see if I would get him down. And if I didn't, then I was in trouble.
Do you feel there's at any point, do you feel that he is trying to be, regardless if obviously it's all negative, but different extremes of negative, where he just wants to be the focal point?
He's always the focal point.
It has to be.
It's all about Russ. Everything is about Russ. Everything. Every single second of the day. And he would have to, I feel that he would go out of his way to ruin anything that was about me or special to me, or, like when my mother was passing away, I had power of attorney. I had to fly to Seattle, and I'm trying to pack, and I'm freaking out because my mom had never been sick a day in her life. And all of a sudden she's on life support at a hospital that you never get out of. So I'm freaking out. I'm trying to pack. And he's like, well, you've got to pick out my clothes for tomorrow. And I'm like, what? I don't give a shit what you wear tomorrow, but I had to line that all up for him. And when my father passed away, 4 months later, 5 months later, he said to me, he wouldn't answer the phone. Again, I'm up in Seattle. He wouldn't answer the phone. And I called and called and called because I was just desperate to talk to him. I mean, 2 parents in 5 months is huge. Yeah. And he said to me, he goes, oh, I needed a little vacation from you. Well, who does that when you're at a funeral?
Do you think that Russ, in the same way as you and I and everyone that's watching, do you think he's capable of genuine love for someone?
No, because, well, let me finish the funeral thing, because I can't remember what I was going to say.
I need to smoke. I'm just turning off my camera. I'm still here. I'm still here. Just so you know.
Oh, he said when I got back, he goes, well, I hate to tell you what I'm thinking. And I'm like, well, what are you thinking? And he goes, well, I'm glad that your parents died because now you're going to get an inheritance and I'll have money to pay off my bills.
Wow. Just straight in with that. Just straight in with where's the check?
Yep. So I spent on his promise. I paid $100,000 to pay off his second mortgage because we were struggling financially because he has no filter on what's being spent. It's just, I had to tell him multiple times, you can't buy that prop. We can't afford it. I put $100,000, paid off the second mortgage. He promised me he would pay me back. Promised me over and over and over. And
where did you see that promise being held up from? Where was Russ's income to pay back $100,000?
Supposedly, he has like almost or more now. He had $425,000 in his retirement account.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Cough up the $100K, Russ. Cough it up.
So it's not like Russ's money is our money. Russ's money is Russ's money, and my money was Russ's money.
Wow.
So.
Wow. I tell you now.
Like I paid for his attorney, his custody attorney. I paid so many bills. It's ridiculous.
I'm telling you now, this whole story, this whole saga better not end with Russ McKinney sitting in the Bahamas with $400,000 living out his fucking great.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, he got all of the proceeds from the sale of the house, and technically I'm entitled to half of that. He has all of that too, so I'm guessing that's around another $300,000.
Fuck.
So
if that's true, if Russ McKinney's sitting on a sweet $500,000, right? Yep. He's not going to give a flying fuck what people say about him on the internet. He's going to ride this fame out until he can just disappear like Kaiser Soze. Like
he also promised me that when I moved here, he would buy me a new septic system. That never happened, and that he would never leave me hanging financially. Well, I'm hanging.
That is. Oh man! If anyone knows any lawyers, right, who knows anything about this kind of law, right, with long-term relationships and finances and how to get Carol her fucking money, please contact us, because surely that's an easy win for anyone who's a lawyer, man. Okay, there's got to be paper trails for $100K. Okay, has to be. So,
hey, do you care if I ask her a quick question, real quick?
Please do.
Okay. So if Russ has all this retirement money, why is the $20K allegedly so fake, and why is he living in some bum ass trailer in Tennessee?
Because he's not going to give out any money. His money is his money. That's it. And if you looked at that money, you could see on it that it said for movie use only. It's fake money.
Yeah, that was a cracker.
I mean, let's just say if Russ's lips are moving, it's a lie. But unfortunately, I didn't learn that until I was almost gone, So
I guess as for the trailer, it's probably just because he's a gross fucking bastard anyways, right?
Well, he is a pretty dirty guy. He doesn't shower. He doesn't brush his teeth.
Wow.
All kinds of things. So he's gross. He's a dirty boy.
He's a dirty boy.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, let me just.
Look at his videos. He's wearing the same damn shirt every day.
Yeah, we've seen a few people on YouTube that like to wear the same shirt every day that we've covered on this channel. It seems to be an interesting side effect.
It's a trend.
People. Yeah, it's a trend. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Now, I know there's been a lot of discussion about Russ's mental health and about how we want to get him help and we want to push for this. Has there been any history of Russ ever seeking any form of mental help?
Yes. Well, first of all, he was in a mental institution when he was younger. Lindsay had said that she had heard it was 6 weeks. I believe it was way longer than that.
Okay.
I think it even went into high school.
Okay.
But I'm not positive. Maybe possibly as a freshman. I'm not sure. But yeah, he would actually ask me to find him help. And it's really hard because you have to go through the military network and it's limited. It's very limited on who you can see.
Yeah.
And so let's just say we exhausted everybody because he wouldn't go see a man. It had to be a woman. And we would go and
it had to be a woman, did you just say?
Yes, it had to be a female. So
that'll stem from his control. That'll stem from his, if you've only got a man or a woman to choose from, which does he think he can control the better of the two?
Well, every single session would end up with him blaming me for everything. And I don't know how many times I got up at a session and said, if you believe the shit he's telling you, then I want nothing to do with this. And I would walk out of sessions.
But surely they'll have had a list of pre-existing mental health diagnosis and all this kind of stuff. Is it just, I can't.
He would go to somebody once, maybe twice, and then never go back. And they would want him to take medication. And he finally, like probably 6 or 7 years into it, he decided to try something. And I think he tried it for maybe a week, and then that was the end of that. So
yeah. No, that's crazy. And I think a lot of people, I mean, I never had any, major prior knowledge of Russ trying to seek any help or anything like that. And I don't know if anybody else did or if that was common knowledge. But for me, to hear that he would only talk to a woman, and
he said he wasn't comfortable talking to a man about his issues.
And did he ever?
And then when Lindsay went to get a little bit of therapy because she was having problems with him, and he was just out in the lobby, livid that it was a man. So I don't understand. I think if you want help and you seek help, it shouldn't matter who you're talking to.
Well, you've got to remember, if you've only got two options, whether it's man or woman or black or white, that is a very restricted amount of control that Russ can have on that situation. There's not multiple options. So his anger stems from Russ has decided everyone has to see a woman. And if you step outside of his commands, he's going to kick off. It's a repeating pattern, Carol. It's just, it's constant. It's unreal. And I mean, is there anything else you want to touch on with regards to Russ and your time with him and how you've observed your time without him? And is it a steady decline of mental health, or is it period of his life where he's okay and then he's down, then he's okay and then he's down, or is it just?
I don't think he's ever okay.
Okay.
I mean, he would control everything from me walking in and out of the door, bringing groceries home, what TV I could watch. I wasn't allowed to watch. I basically watched the cooking channel because I couldn't watch movies. He just controlled every aspect of my life. And I had to cook him dinner every night, and he wouldn't come into the kitchen and get it. I had to serve it to him. And sometimes I'd have to walk in and out of the living room to serve him his dinner 20, 30 times. So it's just with his dinner in your hand, in and out 30 times. Yes. So in 15 years, Russ never did a single chore, never did laundry, never cooked, never ran errands, never cleaned, nothing. But he was able to work on the haunt. That was fine. He could do that. But nothing to help me. I ran his businesses. I dealt with all of his brides on his DJ business. I even had to go out to venues and set it up for him.
Yeah, just briefly touch on Russ's other businesses. There was something to do with wedding planning or something like this, I heard.
Right, he's a DJ. He would do a lot of weddings at a particular venue.
He must have showered before the DJ gigs.
Yes.
He did. Yeah, so that public persona.
But then he didn't want to do those anymore because it was too much work.
Okay.
But I mean, when you're making that kind of money, he was making $125 an hour. But he didn't want to do them anymore because it was too much work. So that comes to the van, the red van. I bought the red van.
Okay. Yeah, touch on the van because again,
I bought the red van for his DJ business because loading everything into his little Ford pickup was a nightmare.
Okay.
And I mean, lifting that equipment was crazy. So I bought that van off of eBay, actually.
Okay.
And I had a lift put in it so that he wouldn't have to lift anything ever again.
That sounds very nice of you, like very thoughtful. Did you ever feel like that was ever returned, that thought?
No.
That thoughtfulness? No. Okay.
Of course not. So then when he stopped doing weddings, which I couldn't understand because I'm not making $125 an hour and I'm working my ass off all the time and at home and at night. And he would wake me up at night to get up and do more stuff because stuff wasn't getting done to his satisfaction. The van became the haunt and he just freaking destroyed it.
Oh, man.
Destroyed the inside of that van. It's here with me sitting out in the yard. It smells like vomit still 3 years later.
And is it just sitting there doing nothing? I'm sure you would be able to reclaim some of your money selling that as a weird McCaney Manor relic to some crazy super fan. I'm sure.
I kind of hang on to it in case I ever need to.
Like, don't meet that person yourself. We'll get Josh to like talk somewhere.
I actually kind of keep the van because it's the best way to transport all of the animals. And, if we've had a lot of flooding here and if I had to leave, then I've got an exit vehicle. Yeah,
you got your bug out vehicle for sure.
Yeah. So
now,
can I sneak a question in real quick?
Please do.
Like it's kind of in regards. So I don't know if a lot of people have heard this. I think we've talked about this before, like privately. But what was there like a specific something, or what was the reasoning of going from like a kitty boo haunt to what it turned into? Like, how did that happen?
I actually don't know. He wanted the haunt to seem longer at one point, and he would like kidnap them and drive them around. But we're still not at the beatdown stage, so I'm okay with him driving them around. Then he started putting freezers in them with water in them and all this other stuff. And, for those of you who have gone through the haunt, he never changed the water in that. So you guys all peed in it and vomited in it. And you guys are just stepping into it from the next.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
and then
hopefully they shower.
Let's hope you never have to bug out in that vehicle.
Well, some of the actors and old participants came over and spent the entire day cleaning it out and getting his crap out of it. But they literally had to hose down the interior of the van.
Oh, man.
So
yeah,
it still stinks.
Yeah, do a controlled burn on the inside of that, Carol. That's probably the only way to rid it of its sins.
Yeah, it's awful. So.
And now, just because I'm learning as I go, I've heard a lot of things about this van, right? And how it was used in the haunt and how things went on there. I don't know. Can you shed any light on that? Is that something that you're able to talk about, or is that just more of the mythology, or is it different from person to person?
Well, it's different. It's different from person to person, but he used the van to drive them to different locations. There are no other locations, just like there are no other locations now. His little story about Alabama property being sold, that's not true. He doesn't have a venue in Alabama. He didn't have other venues in California. He would drive them around to grocery stores and other warehouses and park behind them and say, okay, we're at the other location. He'd have them get out and they're standing behind this big building. And they're like, oh yeah, well, we're at another venue. We're not. We're at the grocery store.
Yeah.
So,
creating the illusion.
And he would drive them around the block and drive them. And it was sometimes they'd end up in a sewer runoff at the end of our street. It's just a gross rainwater runoff. It's nasty. It reeks down there. Looks pretty cool, but no way would I get in it.
Yeah, from a safety point of view. Now, there's a couple of things I'd like to ask. Now, we've touched on this with other people that have been on. I just wanted to confirm it with yourself. So, was there ever any insurance or trained safety people for medical injuries or possible deaths or anything like that?
Well, first of all, there have never been any deaths.
I'm just going by the waiver, Carol.
Oh, I know, but he has this rumor out there that somebody died from a heart attack. That is not true.
I think that if anyone had died, we would know about it. It would be all over the news. I think.
So actually, our homeowners insurance covered the backyard haunt for a while.
Okay.
And then they're like, no, we're not going to cover that. What you're doing, we're not okay with that. We're not covering it anymore.
Okay.
So he investigated getting haunters insurance, which they really didn't want to do it at a house either. I think at one point he found somebody who would charge him for it, but it was excruciatingly high.
Yeah.
So he started a GoFundMe to pay for the insurance, but he never bought the insurance, and people put money into that and totally got screwed by him.
Wow.
And because it was his promise that they would be the head of the line in the haunt. And, I feel really bad that they contributed that money.
That is something
but I'm also grateful that they didn't get to go through, because it would be another torture event. I did not like the torture thing. I did not participate in it. I hated what he was doing. I absolutely hated it. There's some participants that he won't even put their videos out or say that they went or whatever. I mean, that's bullshit. I mean, he beat the living shit out of Laura Brotherton.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to some of the more extreme cases, but I just want to ask another couple of questions. Was there ever any drugging? The mythology of this drugging that went on, was there ever any realities in that?
No, he didn't drug anybody. It was retractable needles. He would give them pills, but they were actually Tic Tacs.
Yeah.
It's all the power of suggestion.
Yeah.
He's got them so scared that they actually think that they are.
Yeah. Listen, I completely understand how powerful the mind is and perception and all of that. So, yeah, it's a big common question. So I just wanted to throw that one in there. Now, the last one I'm going to ask you is the famous Vegas live stream, Carol. This super duper live stream to Vegas. I mean, everyone's been saying it is just poppycock. Would you confirm this for us?
Yeah, there's no Vegas. I mean, he couldn't have possibly have done that. He wasn't licensed to have any of that. It was all completely fake. He put cameras up in the haunt that are battery operated. They look like security cameras, but they're not. Can I have permission to use whoever just walked through your door's face on the internet? Is that okay? The gentleman that just walked. No, it's my neighbor's kid or my roommate's kid. All right. Well, as long as we're okay to put his face on the internet, we're fine. That's fine. So, excuse me, I did give my best Braveheart last night. Thank you very much. Whoever just said I never gave my best Braveheart, go watch the end of the stream last night. I gave you the Braveheart. Okay, sorry to interrupt you there, Carol. What's the Braveheart?
Can I vouch for that?
Well, quenching some tea there before we start getting in. Somebody done a super chat last night and asked me to give my best Braveheart impression at the end of the stream, and I almost forgot about it, but my missus shouted through and told me to do it, and I did it. Okay,
it was the speech from Braveheart, the movie, with Mel Gibson.
So that's been done now. That's been done now. So there's no need to ask for it again. It's on the internet. Okay. I need your Gordon Ramsay impression. Oh God. We'll get to that, Carol. All right, we'll get to that.
I fucking shit.
Your payment.
That's for iPad.
My Ramsay impressions. I just want to say as well, I think Lindsay's out in the side chat, so just hello to Lindsay, and thanks for coming and watching and joining us again. Well, she can come on if she wants to. Yeah, Lindsay knows she's always welcome. Cap, you can jump on that. I don't know if Lindsay might be working, but she knows she's always welcome here. So we've crushed some of the myths, retractable needles, In fact, let me just have a little rant here. Hang on a second. Okay, so we've covered some of the myths. We've talked about the retractable needles. We've touched on the van, which was interesting to me because again, I'm a noob coming into this. You know, we're still touching on the severe mental health side of Russ, and it's interesting to hear that he has seeked help before, and the fact that there is free help available via his military pension and his naval background, and that wasn't something that we highlighted previously. That I think is quite a big chunk of information for me, anyway, to find out. So. Yeah, we'll get back to Carol and Josh. Have you got anything else you wanna throw in just before I kind of move into the next part of this?
Just let you know, Lindsay's going to jump on for a minute or two. I'm just finding her on Discord.
Good.
Awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you, Cap. See? Awesome. So yeah, Josh, is there anything you want to touch on the sort of? I tell you what, Carol, why don't we ask you when you felt like the peak of, there must have been a moment where it all got too much and you decided mentally this is when you were going to start freeing yourself, or was it?
Well, I wanted to free myself for a long time, but when some certain individual has all of your money, how do you leave?
Okay, so how many years when was there a moment, was there an act or an event that triggered the it's time to leave process? Not the I'm leaving right now, but the
there were several triggers. The $1,500 that he spent in 1 month on a dating website that he took out of another account that I wasn't supposed to know about. And
okay,
then
how do you spend $15,000 on a date?
$1,500.
How do you spend what?
Yeah, because you have to buy like coins to talk to women. So he's just buying, and talking to these women all the time. And he was doing it at work too, because then I couldn't hear or see what he was doing. So, how many
years?
I think when he started moving stuff here, he came here maybe 8 or 10 times. He brought props here and crates, all of my parents' belongings, his things. I mean, when I moved here, the house was just stuffed full. It was out in the yard. It was rotting out in the yard because I didn't move for another 5 years after I started moving stuff here.
Her feed cap.
Huh?
Sorry?
Can you just ask Lindsay just to mute her? There we go. She's got it. She's muted. She did it. She's there. Welcome, Lindsay. Thank you for coming back and joining us. What I'm going to do, Cap, is if you and Josh just keep this going. I'm just nipping downstairs. I think I hear Nora. So just keep everybody introduced. Nora. It's my 10-week-old little girl who is just, honest to God, her cuteness surpasses all known realms of cuteness. So I'll try and be as quick as I can, but I need to go and just make sure she's okay.
We want to see her.
Honestly, I'll when we're offline, I'll give you a private Nora screen because I swear to God.
Yeah, I would not do that public. No.
I don't get me wrong. There's little snippets here and there of her, but I keep it fairly locked down. But the community, they're awesome. They're many members of the community are like family. I'm on a lot of video calls every day, so there's a lot of intertwined members. But Lindsay, just for the sake of people who've been living under a rock for like the last week, okay, just introduce yourself again and let everybody know who you are, and I will be back in a moment.
Hi, friends. I'm Lindsay, and I'm Russ's daughter. LOL. Yeah, that's that. That's that.
So I guess this is probably you guys' like first face-to-face in a while, right? From what I heard.
We've talked on the phone.
But yeah,
I haven't. I've seen her online, but I haven't spoken to her where I can see her. So, and I'm working on that thing for you, Lindsay, down in the basement. So
okay, thanks.
Looking for. I don't think it's.
That's okay.
Yeah. But anyway,
I'm like frozen right now. I'm just trying to think of what to ask.
Well, okay.
Let's turn it over.
If you don't have nothing, I'll just wing it.
Oh, Josh, yeah. If you have questions, because I know you've been pretty good with the questions.
Well, Lindsay, I don't know you, so hello. It's very nice to meet you. And thank you for you coming out here. I don't know how in the world you found us. I mean, but that's pretty awesome that you found the stream and everything. And
yeah,
go ahead.
My mom started noticing interviews happening, and she kept sending them to me just because out of pure curiosity, because when it's just all of this is so crazy. And so my mom was like, no, this person's talking, this person's talking, this is so amazing, everyone's being, finally telling their truth and all that. So and then I just really just like, after hearing Holly's story, I just was like, I feel like I deserve to have a platform to talk about this too, because I don't talk about it with anyone. No, I mean, only like the closest people in my life. Nobody knows that I'm a McCamey. That's not something I'm proud of. It's not something I talk about. So I just felt like, you know what, after 8 years, I know I said 10 before, I was rounding up. It's been 8 years because I was 13 when I left and now I'm 21. But after 8 years of like working on this and figuring out all of my bullshit, I feel like I can finally talk about it without breaking down. So that's
and that's amazing.
What I want to do.
All of you, the people that Russ has had in his inner circle, I keep saying this, are all of you are brave for coming forward, especially with the fear instilled in your mindset with your experiences. And it was really you, Lindsay, that brought the severity of the mental health forward. I know Carol was super keen to just back that up, the severity of Russ's mental health. And we're taking steps forwards behind the scenes to bring some people together, and we want to really discuss that a little bit more. And there's the survivor aspect when we look at Carol and Holly and Lindsay that entwines with this, that I think millions of people are currently going through what you went through, and I want to maybe get you guys on a show where we can offer access to support. We'll get some links together and things like this, and really focus on the areas where we can make a bit of difference for people who haven't managed to free themselves from similar situations.
And I feel like psychological and mental abuse is not really talked about as much as sexual and physical abuse is talked about in media and all of that. So, I mean, that's something that my close friend I was just talking to brought up, is she was like, if anything that could come out of this, because I was talking to her about, I feel like it's weird, putting all of our family's dirty laundry out there. But then she was like, but you're not, because if you can help another little girl who's scared and struggling and confused, because nobody talks about this kind of abuse this thoroughly. It's really confusing for anyone who hasn't personally experienced, and that's why explaining this situation is so difficult, and why a lot of people are hearing maybe different stories here and there, because we all have our own story. I mean, this man is extremely sick, and we've all experienced our own individual trauma with him.
Exactly.
So it's all a unique perspective, but I do think that if we can help any woman or person who's in an abusive relationship or in an abusive situation, like I was talking to Creep Child, and I said, like, when I talk about this stuff, I just think about when I was 6, and I just think about 6-year-old Lindsay and how badly I just
there's a lot of 6-year-old Lindsays out there.
I just wish I had someone to other than like my mom. And a lot of times I wasn't allowed to talk to her when I was at my dad's house, like on the phone or anything. So I just wish I had someone who could have someone.
He would take your phone away, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would hide the phones and take my phone away, because he knew I was going to call my mom and cry. And
so maybe if it's all right with Lindsay and Carol, since we've got you both here, we can focus on the period of your lives where you guys were, all three of you were together, you, Russ, and Carol, Lindsay. If there's any sort of events you want to discuss, or if there's anything that you want to, from that time period that's not been discussed that you want to put out there, feel free to do that.
When I talked to Lindsay after or before the show, I'm not sure which it was. I dreaded dinner time. I would make dinner, and when I was a child, my dad would always discipline us when we were eating, and it makes you sick. It literally makes you sick. And Russ would always choose that time period to discipline Lindsay.
And did he know that your previous experience with your father, or was that just coincidental?
That was just coincidental.
Okay.
So
I mean, I think my dad knew when it was his time, when you're what's the word? When you're vulnerable and when you're eating, it's pretty vulnerable.
Yeah.
Lindsay would get up and run to the bathroom, and then he'd be like, "Go get her." I'm like, oh my God.
Well, because I would be throwing up. I mean, when you're in, I mean, this is kind of how I tried it how I explained it to my therapists. When you're in constant panic, so I would constantly be in a fight or flight mode in my head, like shaking, nauseous, getting picked up from school if it was a Monday or if it was my dad's weekend was truly breakdowns in the bathroom. Couldn't make it in class without having to leave because I was having a panic attack. Begging my mom to find some reason for her to have me that Monday night. Like it was just awful. A big thing that would happen. I mean, I couldn't eat really for like 5 years because I was constant. When you're really, really panicked, when your heart is really pounding and you're really stressed, keeping down food is really difficult. I remember there was even one time my dad asked me, or he made Carol ask me, I think, if I thought I was fat, if I thought I had an eating disorder when I was like 7 or 8. And I was like,
yeah, it was him. That was him.
Yeah, it was like, no, it has nothing to do with that. I'm in constant terror. And when you're constantly scared, you can't keep food down. Yeah. So even now I love food. Food is amazing. But when I'm stressed, I can't eat. I can't eat even the slightest stress. I can't eat, I'll throw up. So
yeah, I think that'll be like a trigger from everything you went through.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of little triggers, just little specific things. But I mean, even now, if anyone ever tells me or asks me, like, I need to talk to you or we need to have a conversation, holy shit, I could vomit. I could poop my pants out of my chair because every time I'd get in the car and I'd be picked up, Carol would say, Dad wants to talk to you when you get home. Fuck. Yep. That means the night is over. The night is over
before you even got home.
So, I mean, there are little things in my day-to-day life, even now, 8 years later. I mean, my boyfriend, God bless his heart, has to deal with my anxiety and has to word things differently for me because I'm so easily triggered by everything. I mean, my relationships are impossible to maneuver. Luckily, I'm with...
Like your mother, she doesn't have a relationship.
No, she hasn't been with someone.
I will never have a relationship after that.
No People way. Are always asking my mom, like, why didn't you get back out there? And my mom's always like, no. I'm destroyed. I am a broken human being. I have nothing to offer another person, let alone a man.
You think your mom would come online here?
No. No, I don't. No. I was actually saying yesterday, I did like a Q&A with a couple of the girls on here. And I'd mentioned that Russell, my brother, Maddie, who they're engaged. I don't know if you know that, Carol.
No, I didn't. Yeah. I knew he was engaged, but I didn't know to who.
To Maddie.
Okay.
Fucking Maddie from high school sweethearts.
Awesome.
They're engaged. My mom and his mom were all celebrating Thanksgiving together where he lives. And I was like, you know what? If we all have enough glasses of wine, we may be like, let's get on there and talk about this. I don't know. But
that would be
we'll see. But sober,
I think I'm sending bottles of wine.
Yeah, I think
please do. I love wine.
Where do we ship this wine to?
I don't know if sober Linda would be down, but I could get her a few glasses of wine, and then we'll see.
Well, listen, that can literally be arranged within about 20 minutes of you contacting one of us. So
okay, great.
Well, tell your mom that after I left, I wanted to call her and tell her, you were right, because she warned me about him. And I was like, oh, no, you're not. Oh, yeah, she was. And then some. So I should have listened to your mother.
We all should have listened to our moms. Am I right, guys?
Yeah.
Listen to your mothers.
We should all listen to our mothers.
But even my mom, I was on the phone with my mom yesterday, and she had listened to your interview, Carol, and she was like, he's gotten worse.
Oh yeah.
And she was like, I don't even, like, I thought what I experienced was bad. And she was like, I can't even imagine what Carol was put through. I mean,
the pressure and the stress of doing all the things that he wanted me to do and say, even you, Lindsay, was so overwhelming, and I don't even know how to describe it. It literally made me sick. And like when
Carol was essentially a single mom because my dad made her take care of everything when it came to me. I mean, she paid my mom's child support. She paid for my clothes. She took me to school every day. She made me food every day. My dad didn't do any parenting there except for, disciplinary in his own way. But even then he would make Carol do the half of it. So, I mean, she was not only in charge of every single thing in that house and making sure everything got done, but also she had to be a mom to this kid. And also a kid who's extremely emotionally tainted because of what her childhood has been like. And so she has this kid who like does weird things and says weird things and is emotional and crying all the time and hates doing everything. And she's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Help me, my partner, help me. There is no helping, I mean, it's so crazy what he expected of you. Like, you're a human being, and not once were you ever treated like a human being.
My biggest nightmare with you was Taekwondo.
Mm-hmm.
And making you go and because I knew that if you didn't go and you didn't do what you're supposed to do in class, it was my ass, not yours, mine.
Did you, Lindsay, feel like Carol was used as the messenger for discipline and bad news and things like this? Carol was sort of touching on something like that earlier.
I mean, I didn't know in the moment. I didn't figure that out until a few years ago as an adult. But in the moment, I just thought, she's just an asshole.
Yeah. Well,
in the moment, I was like, you both suck. like truly. I mean, when we would have our moments, like Carol and I would have our moments where if Dad wasn't around, remember how happy we were when Dad was gone for a Saturday because he had a show?
Yep.
It was like just us, and we would watch TLC. We would watch, we would hang out with the dogs and watch rom-coms and make food. And it was amazing. We had no issues. So, it was when Dad was away, it was just the best. The best.
Yep. It still is.
Yeah, it is. It's great. But
when I moved here and I walked in the door, I actually didn't know what to do because I started crying. I didn't have to go in and out of the door 40, 50 times. I'm like, this is awesome. And when I fled, and with the help of Angel, she drove one of my vehicles and I drove the other vehicle. We had 9 Greyhounds. I said, we have to get into Arizona. I don't want him coming after me. And I got to the first motel in Yuma and I started vomiting, and I don't remember driving here. It was just throwing up the entire way. I was in shock. I was in fear. Angel got pulled over for tailgating, and when the police pulled her over, I was just freaking out because I thought, oh God, I'm screwed. I've been, he's caught me. I don't remember the trip here, basically. A few things here and there, but I mean, it was just go as much as we could. It was snowing. It was windy. We were all over the road. I was just scared out of my wits.
I wonder, could you touch on what finally made you leave? Like, was there a certain situation that happened that made you be like, fuck this, I'm out?
Well, I didn't have any way to go because I wasn't going to leave the dogs with him. I wasn't going to let Holly touch the dogs. Those are like my children, and you know that. They're my kids.
I know.
They're everything to me. And here comes Holly. She's going to move in after 3 days. And I'm like, fuck no. And I don't want her in this house because everything is my mom's. And Lindsay, you don't know that, but my mom was going to move into the house in San Diego, and she started shipping her stuff to the house, and we were going to put my dad in a convalescent home in California, so that I could help. And then she passed away the day things started arriving in San Diego. So all of the china, everything was my mother's, and I'm not going to let Holly touch that. That's my personal being, my experience. I don't want her involved in it. And I just, Angel flew over from London, and she goes, we're leaving. We are leaving, because he would do things. When Angel came over to do her tour, he told me he didn't want to go to dinner with her and I. You guys go to dinner. The two of you go to dinner. So I do. We go to dinner near her hotel, and I leave my phone in the car, and I come out, and there's like 55 phone calls from him. Where am I? What are you doing? Where's my dinner? All this kind of stuff. And when I finally call him, he said, I called the police and told them you were suicidal. I'm like, what? So then I had to deal with the police several times. So, and then I got fired from my job because Russ and Holly would not stop calling me, trying to convince me how fabulous this was going to be, the three of us living together. And I'm like,
were they expecting like a polyamorous relationship, or just like a co-living situation where they were in a relationship and you were their caregiver?
Russ was going to sleep on the couch. I was going to be in the bedroom, and Holly was going to be in that little apartment out in the front.
Yeah.
Well, I can hear everything in that room. That's his office. I'm not going to do that bullshit. And he could not get it through his head that it was not okay.
It is so inappropriate to ask you that.
And he wasn't asking me. He was telling me that's what it was going to be. And this wasn't the first girl that he had done that with. He had done it with at least 2 other women. Well, woman. And then she goes, well, I'll be cooking you dinner every night. I'm like, I can cook for myself. I don't want
You're a great cook.
I don't want you cooking me dinner. She goes, well, I'll make you salmon dinners. And I just look at Russ, and I'm like, I fucking hate salmon. I don't, I'm not going to have to dictate what I'm going to eat. And he just couldn't get it through his head. And so he was getting ready to go to Transworld, and I got fired. And I was just beside myself, because I'm like, now what? I don't have an income. I don't have anything. And he's got all the money. I've got 9 dogs and 2 cars that I've got to somehow get to my house in another state. And so Angel drove the car with 2 dogs in it. I drove the van with 7 other dogs and a whole bunch of crap stuffed in it. And off we went. But he was just coming back from Transworld, and Holly was already in San Diego staying at a motel. And I'm like, we got to get out of here by 5 o'clock. And it was like 4:30 when we took off. And then I saw he left his Facebook account open, and I saw that he was going to go spend the night at her motel before they had to go to the house the next day and deal with Carol. So I was just like, we're gone. So that was that.
Carol, because you were talking about the money situation, someone had a question in the Discord. How much was spent on all the props throughout the years?
It's hard to say. It's not what he says at all. I mean, and half of this, well, not half of it, all of the stuff that he buys, he does not take care of it. A lot of the props are broken or rusty. I mean, they sit in water all the time. But like when he drove things here, and he left them in the yard, and like, frick, it's 7 degrees here today with snow on the ground. And so 5 years of that, everything that he left outside is rusted and broken and rotted and full of rats and skunks. It is just somewhere I have a picture of what he left. And the fire department down the street came graciously and hauled it all away with a loader down to a barn that they were going to burn, and it had to go up. It was infested. It had to all go.
Wow.
So I would talk about a huge waste of money, but
And did
I
that
mean,
even, did
not
that,
$500,000 like he constantly says. He exaggerates everything. So, I mean, on my credit card, I still have like $25,000 worth of debt of things that I had to
wow.
pay for on the haunt. So,
I mean, even when I was there, the haunt was disgusting. I mean, there was mold everywhere,
yeah,
dog poop everywhere. He would make me clean up the dog poop in the rain.
you know,
Like,
that was
teach me a lesson.
Do you think
he had one job. He had one job, and that was poop scooping, and he would not do it. And guess what? He still doesn't. I feel sorry for the dogs that he has now. I feel, it's terrible. So,
Can I sneak one in on you guys real quick?
I here twice a day.
Sorry, Josh?
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over here. Let her.
That's okay. No, I'm done.
I just wanted to see if I could sneak one in real quick that I'd seen. And I think it's through someone that we mutually know. It's nothing bad, but I was wondering if you would want to answer a question about him asking for deeds to your house where you two ever pass away unexpectedly or something.
Oh yeah, when he started on his crazy campaign where he was saying that I was unstable and he was calling the police and saying I was suicidal and all this stuff, he kept asking me, are the deeds to the car in, is your will up to date? Do you know where all the deeds are? Do you know where the deed is to your property? All this stuff. And then he starts this campaign of me being mentally unstable. And Angel is the one who said, fuck, Carol, he's trying to off you. And I'm like,
well,
yeah,
no
he's trying to get me. He's trying to get me committed is what so then he could have everything. So
that's probably the creepiest thing I've heard all night.
Yeah, well, it's all creepy.
It is all creepy.
Yeah.
Now,
every aspect of it is creepy.
Just going back to something you touched on earlier about there being two other, potential women, right? Did they ever touch did they ever arrive at the house, or was that just an online?
No, it was all like 1 or 2 days into his conversations, he's like, "Oh, I love you. You need to come live here with us, and I'll take care of you," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "How can you tell them that you love them when you've only known them literally a matter of hours?" And he says, "Well, I like how it sounds when I say it." Well, what does that mean? You don't really love them.
That's it. We've established the definite incapability of.
Yeah, I don't think that he ever loved me. I mean, he never bought me birthday presents or Christmas presents. I mean, he destroyed every holiday for me. There was always a fight where he would storm out and go to the movies. It was his goal to ruin anything that was special to me. He would destroy it. So I don't put up a Christmas tree. I don't do Thanksgiving dinner. I don't do any of that because it's ruined. In my mind, I will never get over the shit that he did. Oh, but that's all my fault. You changed clothes.
I'm going out afterward. So I have to do a little costume change. I have to get a drink after this. Oh my goodness gracious. But I'm meeting up with friends. We're going to a drag bar, a drag club.
Nice.
It's like a thing with us McCavey Manor folks. It's like every time we cut our cameras off and come back, we fucking look different.
Yeah, I just had to do a little quick change. Sorry about that.
That's right. Don't worry. So yeah, Lindsay, is there anything else you want to, touch on with regards to?
Yeah, I wanted to clarify just because, I mean, I think in the interview we did a couple days ago, a lot of people were saying it sounded like I was defending my dad or like making excuses for him. And I touched on this a little bit yesterday when I talked to some of the girls here on the stream, but I in no way, my dad's actions are inexcusable. You cannot defend any of it. What I was trying to get at was I feel like everything we were talking about, everything that was being said about my dad, about the manor was very one-sided. And at the end of the day, my dad's a human being. who's extremely sick. And I think that this conversation needs to be more about mental health than about roasting this man who, at the end of the day, is an extremely tortured soul he doesn't go a single day of his life feeling happiness or feeling peace of mind. I mean, he is never in a state of peace up here. I mean, he doesn't even sleep. This man doesn't sleep because of his thoughts. So and I knew this as a kid, which made it really hard for me because I had so much empathy for him. I don't really know why, but even at a young age, I was just like, I mean,
do you think any chance that your dad had of a normal life just vanished with his childhood traumas?
I think he was sick even before all of that happened with any childhood traumas. I mean, like I touched on this a little bit before, but mental illness runs heavily in our family. And I think that's one of the things that even at a young age for me, why I understood him to some extent so much was because I also found issues in my mental stability at a young age. I struggled with panic disorder and OCD. I no longer have OCD. I've grown out of it. But I also had really bad OCD. And so I remember one time he and I were at Disneyland and with Carol, and he took me aside and he apologized. Sorry. He apologized and he was like, do you ever feel this way? And I said, yeah, all the time. And we just kind of had this like rapport, like we're not that different, you and me, and we just kind of talked for a few minutes. We were like in front of we were at a the Disney store, in front of the Disney store when you enter Disneyland. I remember it so vividly. And he actually had a brain aneurysm when we were there too, which is so crazy. But right before the brain aneurysm, one of the first times he ever was like, I don't think I'm okay. And I said, I don't think you're okay either, but that's okay. We can figure it out. And it was like, it was a small moment, but it was a moment. And I think that's why I wanted
a real moment.
Yeah. And we had very few of those, but they did exist.
I imagine that would be the case. But did you feel like that was a tiny sliver into almost someone trapped within the Rush shell that we know of? Do you think there is hope?
I don't know anymore, because a lot can change in 8 years, especially when you're 60, 61 years old and you have no family and your children don't speak to you. I mean, that does a lot to someone.
I understand.
And the isolation of, he's completely isolated himself. He lives in the middle of buttfuck nowhere and he has no one. And so I think the story needs to be, yes, McKamey Manor needs to be shut down. Yep. Yes, my dad is sick. No, he's not going to get help no matter how much these random strangers on the internet ask him to, because we couldn't even get him to get serious help. He's not going to get help, unfortunately. And it's a life wasted, because my dad at some point in his life had the ability to have a good life, because at some point, I mean, there was moments with my mom even where my mom just said in the beginning, he was just so wonderful. And even Carol says, I mean, when he was younger, he had these issues, but he had so many redeemable qualities. He was charismatic. He made you feel loved, even if it wasn't necessarily anything he was doing for you. He just made you feel special. And he's a talented musician. He's a singer. He's very creative. I mean, he had these redeemable qualities, but I think over the years, his mental health has declined so much that none of those exist anymore. And all he is this sad man, this tortured soul, and hurt people. So you can't look at him as this evil monster, even though maybe that's what he is. I don't know. But for me, all I can think of is that he's a hurt person. And I feel bad for him, if anything.
I don't feel bad for him, because it's
you
choice.
Experienced a lot more than I did.
But it's his choice to not seek help. It's his choice to blame it on everybody else. I mean, he doesn't feel good unless you feel like shit. So he is able to get help and get on medication. It's his fault that he doesn't.
But his OCD makes it hard for him to be on medication.
You know what? How can it be OCD when he's making other people do it. I mean, OCD, that's you doing something repetitively, not having somebody else. That's control.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do as well is all of these mental health points. We really want to get some people with some expert sort of, people that we can talk to that can really give us some proper insight, because that, what you went through with the OCD, Carol, it just sounds horrendous. When you said that when you freed and you came to the door and you realized you didn't have to walk in and out 30 times.
Yeah.
None of that can be.
Think about it probably 2 or 3 times a week. I think about it when I go out that door.
Yeah, it stays with you.
Yep.
It's all shocking, and it's all, like I say, every time we have one of these streams, it just seems to get more deeper, and the story does get sadder. Like, it really is a sad. The Russ McKinney tale is a sad tale. When you remove the Hollywood and you remove the haunt and his perception of his fame and all this stuff, it is really sad. And it sucks that we couldn't, or, in your guys' opinions, that Russ will never get help, serious help.
No, he will not.
Especially when, Lindsay, you're saying there's been little snippets here and there of him realizing this, and then just,
I mean, they were few and far between, but they did happen.
Well, he does have a little insight to what he's doing, because when he has his thoughts about whatever it is, he will come and like wake me up, and he would say, tell me that I'm not this way, that I don't think these thoughts, that it's not real. I mean, he knows it's not real, but he lives in whatever's going on in his brain. I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is it's so hard to explain unless you really know him, which is why, like, another thing I wanted to touch on is I feel like I was insensitive towards Holly in my last little thing with you guys. And you can't disregard anybody's experience with him. I mean, every experience is your truth. And I don't think it matters how long you were in his life. If you're an abused person, you're an abused person. But I do think that, and she touched on this yesterday, she took back a lot of what she said about my dad.
I'm really glad that you've seen that, actually. Like, I'm really glad.
Yeah. And I mean,
I didn't see that.
She basically apologized and said that she shouldn't have said he was a pedophile, because she didn't understand the depth of his mental illness and his mental problems. And she had assumptions about what it could be, but she didn't really understand where they were coming from. And I guess she watched my video and said, now I kind of more so understand where things were. I still think things are weird, but I feel like I couldn't really jump to that conclusion.
But if you knew what those thoughts were that he has, there is nothing else that you could assume.
Right. That's what, and I agree. There's no fault in her assuming that. Of course, that's what you assume. But when you really know him and you really understand where this is coming from and you deal with it day in and day out, you do discover that it's all in his head. Everything, all of his bad thoughts, all in his head.
On something, Lindsay. A lot of the time people hear the word pedophile and they hear the words child molester in their head. Being a pedophile doesn't necessarily make you a child molester, and being a pedophile doesn't necessarily mean you touch children. It means you're attracted to children, and
he's not attracted to children. In my opinion, I don't think he's attracted to children. I haven't been there in 8 years. Things change. When I was a child, I had never all I experienced was him being fearful of hurting me or doing something wrong with me. I mean, I said before, my relationship with my dad was very different than the relationship my brother had with him. When I was born, my mom tells me that, like, they'd be together and they'd be looking at me and I'm a baby, and my dad would be like, I'm so in love with her. Is this wrong that I love her so much? Like, am I a bad person? Am I going to hurt her because I love her so much? And my mom's like, no, you're a father. You're supposed to be in love with her. He wouldn't change my diapers. He wouldn't do anything. If he ever said, oh, I love her little feet, I just want to eat her little feet, he'd freak out. Because he'd be like, what does it mean that I love her little feet? That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, obviously his thoughts now that he has are not normal or don't have really any explanation. But when I was around, when I was a baby, all I experienced from him was fear of being around me, fear of me growing up. I'm so glad I didn't grow up around him.
I understand what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
I understand that.
I mean, I don't know what it would have been like if I had completely gone through puberty with him. I mean, that's a whole, I mean, I remember when I first started going through puberty, he was very uncomfortable. I had to start wearing bras before I even needed to wear bras. He was very uncomfortable when I went through puberty.
I understand all of that, and I can understand how it's not a nice subject, right? It's not a nice subject. But
Carol might have a different perspective. She's been there for longer than me.
I've dealt and discussed and talked to a multitude of predators, both active, both captive, and it is such a massive topic, this being attracted to kids, right? And it's not as clean cut as people think, or as simple. There's so many different levels of that topic, and I think what you're saying is totally relevant from the time period that you existed with your father, you know. And I think Carol has got must have relevant points. I don't know what reference to the thoughts. I think
that we're both right. I just think it's two different time zones. Yep. I mean, Carol's been there for the last 8 years, and if you can say yes, he's been mentally declining. I mean, I don't know. I can't touch on that. I can touch on my experience with him. What I don't think you can question is how I know my father mentally and emotionally, and how he treats people. But I don't think I can 100% say where he is right now in his state of mind in this point of time. I may not be able to understand that. Yeah, I don't know if anyone can. But I know sure as hell when I was a kid, my dad really didn't want anything to do with me. But he was obsessed with my brother. They were best friends because he was a guy. My brother was a little boy. I don't think he was worried about anything with my brother. They played
Xbox for hours every night.
Yeah, I mean, they were best friends. So, I mean, my brother, both physically and personality, is an exact copy of my father. And I think my dad loves that. My dad loves that there's this little boy who's just like me, and I love him, and I'm not worried I'm going to hurt him. And then a little girl comes around, and he's like, I don't know what to do with this. Okay. So it was basically Carol and my mom. And then I had a dad who would yell at me, but not really.
Carol, what's your take on those thoughts? I mean, I have to ask you because, you know, it was brought up again. So what is your take on Russ's thoughts that have been, you know, under the spotlight with regards to accusations that have been made, you know, or any of that? Do you feel there's anything that you want to touch on, or would you rather not touch on? I'm not putting you.
I don't really want to touch on it, but I think there's a high level of mental illness. I think his thoughts are highly inappropriate regarding children.
Okay, well, we'll leave it. We can leave it at that. No one's going to jump to any conclusions because, I mean, I'm not a trained expert, but I've spent the last year with some very dark individuals. Don't misconstrue when I say dark. I mean dark individuals, and there is so many. There's a big line, right, between weird thoughts about kids, right, and can only get sexual gratification through the torture of a child, and everything in between that. There is a little type of pedophile all the way along this line. There is such a massive problem, and
I think when Lindsay left, I vividly remember you were coming to our house and you jumped out of your mom's car and you ran back home. You didn't want to come over, and I was relieved that you were not coming over anymore because you didn't have to go through that crap anymore.
The only reason I mentioned that, Lindsay, is I just want to make sure people understand that the word pedophile does not mean somebody who has touched a child. Right. It's such a massive string. It can literally be as simple as thoughts and that's it. So I don't. If that word gets thrown around on any platforms, just I need everyone to understand that there's a massive difference between molesting a child and having some thoughts.
Right.
I'm not justifying any of it. I'm not defending any of it. I'm just saying I'm not justifying anything. I'm just talking about the realities of the topic of, people that are attracted to kids. And I just wanted to touch on that so that if any other platforms start throwing that word around, I mean, I've removed those words from that video. I'm going to edit the video that I put out as well, because I don't think it's fair to have Holly saying these things out there when she's retracted it and all the rest. But just in case anyone does use those words, I just wanted to have it verbally said in this series that there's a big difference between thoughts and actions, and none of them are good.
Right.
But there's a difference.
No, none of it's good. And I'm, again, no way am I defending or excusing anything. I'm just trying to come at it from a different perspective, because like I said, I mean, as much as I hate his guts, he's still my dad, unfortunately.
Coming from your perspective.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
that doesn't mean that I have any love for him. There's none there. I never want to have a relationship with him ever again. Even if he did get help, I don't care. But I have to come at it from a somewhat empathetic point of view, or else I would just be furious at everything. And I can't be mad anymore.
Yeah, I'm in no way saying any of the accusations are real. I just want to make sure people understand that there's a big difference between the two. And I don't think anyone, to be honest with you, you remember before we went on the live the first time, Lindsay, I said to you, trust me, in a couple of days, you might want to come back on, because it is overwhelming. And there was a lot, the first time you came on, and I'm really pleased that all of you feel like you can come back and you're happy to, and things have been good after the shows, and I'm really proud of the team. So, just thanks again for coming back on. But Josh,
a quick question.
Yeah, you got a quick question. That's fine. Are you okay for time, Lindsay?
Yeah, I'm good. I have like another half hour.
That's fine. No problem. Yeah, carry on, Josh.
Okay, so I got I guess this is kind of like two-part question for you. Okay. He kind of covered on no, not her, him. Covered on this different types of the P word that we were talking about that we're not going to say on here right now.
No.
Well, I'm not going to say on here right now, but they're you're from the things that you've heard coming from so many different people, and knowing that there is a type of that is just not interested in a specific gender of their own spawn or their own kid, period. Is that something that, based on the things that you've heard and seen from your dad in your own time with him, is that something that you could see his mental illness devolving into? Could you see that, or is that still just, you couldn't see it, period?
I mean, there were so many things that I mean, my mom and I sat down and had a big talk about Holly's interview and Carol's interview, that my mom, even, who was, abused by my dad, was like, I can't imagine him doing any of this. He never did any of this to me. And not to say it's not true. It's 100%. I believe everything Carol and Holly are saying. Yeah. But I think it proves to me that he has changed and gotten worse. And my mom, I mean, she's talking to me about, her experiences with him. And then we're listening to what Holly has to say. And she's like, he never would have put his hands on me. He would have, if he ever accidentally hurt me, he'd freak out. So I think his OCD was a lot worse when he was in that kind of sense, with the things he was fearful of, and him being this monster that he was always scared he was going to be. And I think maybe now, he's just let it all happen. I don't know. I don't know. But
in the beginning, he's able to hide it from anyone. I truly believe he advertised himself as my knight in shining armor.
So same with my mom.
At some point, he got off that horse and rode it all over me.
Just so you know, that's what you call the predator and the prey. They swoop in because of the vulnerability that they see in someone. They become the reason for that person's new life and the savior. And then the isolation and the mind games and the mental abuse begin once you're cut off. So don't. I mean,
it's classic. It's classic, psychological torture.
Thank you.
And to do that to your own children, and again, I don't think he he did it purposefully. I think when he's fathering, he thinks that's the right thing to do at the time. He thinks he's making me stronger and less weak-minded and proving something. I mean, I don't think he really ever thought what he was doing to us was wrong. I mean, I think he knows deep down sometimes because like I said, he would have some moments of clarity, but for the most part, he's not in the wrong, which is another classic sign of someone who deals with the types of things he deals with and with narcissism is just, you're never wrong. You're never at fault. So to answer your question, yes, it's absolutely possible. Anything's possible when you're dealing with someone who's severely mentally ill and who's in isolation and has no one to turn to or no one who loves him or cares for him. I mean, that's hard for anybody. It's absolutely possible. All of it's possible.
But once you know too much, like I knew everything about him. I mean, it's not specific to your mother. It's not specific to Holly by any means. I actually knew too much, and he told me that, and he wanted somebody clean slate, start over, you know. And the last words he ever said to me was, "You are nothing but a fucking old dried up piece of shit." After 15 years, that's the last thing that he said to me. So on to somebody new, and now he's on to somebody new, and then somebody else, and they will all go through this.
I mean, did he even care when I left? Did he even give a shit?
Yeah, he cared. He wanted me to make you come back.
So he never missed me or wanted me in his life. He just wanted someone to control.
He never expressed much at all. He was angry.
So
angry is more like what it was.
I just feel like, how could you live with yourself when your children leave you?
Like he didn't want you in his will anymore. He didn't want Russell in his will anymore. He had everything coming to me, and then I was supposed to decide what you would get. But now his sister is in that role. Joni's in that role. So
he hated Joni. I'm so confused.
Yeah, like his little story that his mother hated me. I maybe talked to her for 2 minutes in 2004, maybe it was earlier than that. No, it's earlier than that. When I was like 24, I talked to her for like 2 minutes. How do you base something on that? Because I just went there to ask where Russ was. I didn't know he was in the military. And somehow his sister comes up with this story that his mom just kept saying how much she hated me. How can you make a judgment on 2 minutes? So
I just want to ask something about when Lindsay asked about when she left. And I don't really know how to put this. You know, when I'm of the mindset of Lindsay, if I was to lose any of my children, I don't know how I would be able to go on, you know. And Russ seems to have this obsession with controlling women. He seems to have a different relationship with had a different relationship with his son than you, Lindsay. Am I right in saying that? It was completely different, right?
Yes.
Did you feel that Russ felt like he lost his daughter, or did you feel that someone, i.e. Lindsay, an object controlled by Russ, had removed herself and he no longer had that control on her? Was that where the rage came from, or was it?
It always made him upset that he didn't have complete control on Lindsay because she had her mother to fall back on, thankfully. And when she left, I'll just say that most of the conversations were that it was my fault that Lindsay wasn't there anymore.
So he never accepted responsibility for anything, as far as he's concerned.
Never.
It's your fault in therapy.
Always.
It was your fault his daughter left.
Yes.
It was just your fault.
And it's so interesting because I remember when Russell left, my dad was devastated. He was angry, but he was so hurt that he had lost
that big fight out in the front yard.
Right. But when Russell first left,
I don't know.
He was devastated. And then even a few times after that, when Russell would come back and then he'd leave again and whatever. I mean, it was always just heartbreaking for my father. But then I leave and it's like, what you gonna
He
do?
was more focused on being mad at me. So
Yeah.
I think
Which
that's
is just so crazy. And like I was a good
think
I
your
was a
dad-
good kid to
sorry.
him. I really was a good daughter to him. I took care of him. When he was sick, I was his nurse. I loved him unconditionally. I really did. I did everything he asked me to that was possible for me to do in the realm of the anxiety I was constantly having. I understood him and I always tried to understand him. And even now I try to understand him. So it's just so crazy to me that this man can't feel anything for me when I tried so hard to get him to. But all he wanted to do was control me. And when I was younger, I thought protect me because I mean, he controlled everything I wear, everything I wore, you know, everything I said, everything, my haircuts, everything was controlled. I wasn't allowed to have friends over, so no sleepovers. The only time I had a friend over,
would you want them to be there?
I mean, my best friend, one of my best friends came over in the 7th grade, and she was like, "What the fuck?" She was freaked out, and my dad even manipulated her into working into the haunt.
Well, she only did that like once or twice. I mean,
but yeah, and then her parents said no, and her parents made her
like
leave.
2 years later, she contacts him again and wants to be an actress again. I'm like, no.
Well, she's got her own issues. She's got, you know, we all have our own issues. But you know,
oh man.
But when even my friends, when my one friend who came over once or twice was like, this is really weird. Like the rapport of this family is really uncomfortable.
I think I need a fucking drink. I'm going to be honest with you.
So do I. I really do.
It's like
this got really fucking heavy really fast.
I think we've reached hour 11 of this live stream saga from this week, and that's how long it's taken. Right on the 11th hour now, I'm never coming back to the stream without a drink. That's how it's going now. Like it's so heartbreaking. That's it in a nutshell. It has gone from being a mythological creature, right, that exists on the internet, that has fame and has this cult style following of fans.
But you have to notice also that they're never wrong either. They
brainwash, Carol. The brainwash.
They believe Russ 100%. I mean, I get the ugliest messages from his fan base, but you know, I know my truth. I know what happened, and he.
Do me a favor, Carol. Anytime any of you get any hate, just screenshot it and send it over, and we'll just do a big shame video where we just put out a video of shame, right? So just think about that. All right, because we'll put you on blast. Don't.
Well, like he's got one out there right now that's a fake profile. Josh knows about that. He's like in every group just poo-pooing me and Holly.
We have fun with him big time.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any insight on how he's reacting to all of this? Because he's been pretty quiet on social media.
Hey, Lindsay,
anyone checked on him?
If you get up with me, like if you have a way. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Carol.
I have been sending DMs, Lindsay, if that makes any. Like I've offered the exact same platform to your dad as I've offered to everyone else. I've contacted your dad.
No, he won't come on here.
No,
he won't come on here. Impossible. Impossible.
No, he won't.
No, he won't.
But
I just wonder because
Lindsay, if you can contact me, I can give you.
Is that your mum in the side chat? There's
mommy!
Saying
yeah, it's my mommy.
All right, so I do apologize, Linda. I did.
It's like a family reunion.
I do apologize for not acknowledging you sooner. I've just seen.
Sorry, I keep touching my hair.
It's just a random profile picture. It's like a yellow cat or something like that. So I was just like,
Of course it is. Sure.
Could this really be Lindsay's mum? But if it is,
it's a frog. You go, Mom. You get that frog.
It's all good. It wasn't a very convincing mum image in a small circle going up my chat fast. So I just wanted to clarify that. But hi, Linda. Welcome to the side chat. Thank you very much
This
for
is
the
so weird.
email you sent over. And obviously, it goes without saying, the platform is here if you guys ever decide you want to talk about things together and all the rest of it. So
Josh was going to say something.
yes, he was. Carry on, Josh.
Oh, no, it's not even that big of a deal. I was just gonna tell you, if you want to get up with me through Carol or whatever, I have a friend that can give you. I can tell you exactly how he's feeling right now. Like, and I can screenshot it and send it to you.
Wait, how?
I'm pretty.
Can I
I have
ask
direct
how?
contact.
I'll give you
Uh,
contact information.
Yeah,
You can-
I mean, do I want to know? Do I want to know? I just want to know he's okay.
Well, he's paranoid anyways. He thinks this is always going on. Somebody that he thinks is on his side is not on his side that has direct contact with him.
Oh God, there's a narc.
And I can say
Jesus
this out
Christ,
loud because
There's moles everywhere.
yeah, so
He's not
I
some
already
drug
have the
lord, you
screenshots.
guys.
It's not really
He's
a big
just
deal.
psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can send me that screenshot just out of curiosity, as long as it's not. If he's
It's not
threatening
grotesque
anything,
or disgusting
if
or
he's
anything like
threatening to
that.
do anything, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to.
He's scared. Like, to make a long story short, he's very scared and he's in a corner and he's never been in a position like this before. And if it wasn't for these people,
he's choosing to be in a corner. Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone that was previously in a corner has stepped out of the corner onto this platform and had their say. The only person that's not opened their fucking mouth is Ross McKinney. This whole fucking saga is about Russ McKinney, the damage he's done, the people that he's hurt, his mental illness, the manner, the myths, the legends, the bullshit. It's all about Russ. Okay.
Yep.
So Russ, if you're in a corner and you're scared, you're there because you choose to be. Okay. Remember that.
But also, there's what do we expect him to say? We're not saying anything incorrect.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Linda.
He's telling us
Holly. I'm sorry, Carol. And that would be a fucking start.
No, that'll never happen. Oh, here's your $100,000, Carol. Oh, yeah, sorry. No, that's not gonna happen either.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm getting riled up here. I'm not meaning to direct my riledness at anybody here. It's
understandable.
I just feel
especially as a father, I can't even imagine how frustrating this all must be. Like as a parent, hearing of another parent being just so shitty to their kids. Like, I mean, it makes me mad. And I'm not a parent.
The thing is, though, any one event, any one of the million events that happened to you, Lindsay, right, is unthinkable. And the fact that there was a fucking back catalogue of trauma is really difficult. It's really difficult to sit here, and it's amazing how still loving you are towards your dad, and how maybe loving is not the right word. Empathetic is probably the better word, but empathetic towards your dad and how much you still care. And I've said it to Carol, I've said it to you on the previous stream. Survivors tend to have this way of blowing me away with their empathy, and I wish that you would get help.
I don't know if I would. I don't know if I was. If I had stayed for another 8 years, like Carol would have, I don't know if I would be empathetic. I think because I left when I did, and because I'm, his blood, I'm able to sort of have empathy. But I think if I even stayed there a minute longer, I would have either killed myself or done something that I'm not going to say right now. But I was cutting myself at 8 years old. I was suicidal. I just wanted it to fucking go away. And no one understands. Nobody talks. I mean, I remember having conversations with my mom about trying to get to court and talk about what he was doing. And she would get emails back from her lawyers and say, there's no bruises. What are we supposed to do? He's not physically hurting her. We cannot do anything. That was the issue, is that this is not something that's explainable. And when you do try to explain it, it's like, okay, your dad's a little bit of a dick, whatever. You don't understand. And so
because like when I tried
so hard to explain.
When I tried to get out several times, and I asked actors, I asked a lot of people, please help me. No one did. Nobody, I don't think anyone could understand it. They didn't want to get involved. They didn't believe me. I mean, so many people call me a liar. I am not lying about anything. I mean, he is dangerous.
I mean, what do we gain from lying? I mean, seriously, there's no point.
I mean, and this
when you
is
have
really
enough
hard to come out and say this, because he's terrifying. You know, he's terrifying. I had to go out and purchase certain things to feel more protected. So,
Yeah, I'm glad I live on the opposite end of the country.
yeah.
You know?
I mean, like I have video cameras and have a gun and a rifle and all tasers, everything. I have everything. Just because I'm scared that one of his lunatic fans will come after me too.
Do you think at any point his fans will get the message? I mean, obviously no one's going to come in at this point and sit down and watch 11 hours of streams. There's a lot for people to take in. But when we come to do, you know, our conclusion and our videos on this, do you think any of this will ring home with his diehard fan base? Do you think?
No, I've seen some of the things they're writing. They think that Holly and I are complete liars, fabricating everything just for fame. Well, I don't want to be on here. I don't want to be talking about him. I want him out of my brain.
Well, what confuses me about that mindset is, Lindsay, for a start, I'm sure you could have went to much, you know, I'm sure you could have went to some of the news outlets that were covering your dad in the manor and told them your story. You know, I think it's.
My brother and I have been reached out to. I mean,
yeah.
me, like very much less so than my brother, because I changed my last name to separate myself from my dad. But we've been reached out by huge Netflix, BuzzFeed, like name it all.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. My brother and I we don't know what we're gonna do, but I think we've both gotten to the place where we've healed, and I mean, we're still really mad. But my brother's more mad than I am. My brother's mad because my dad hurt me. That's why my brother is mad.
Yeah.
He, like, my brother always said, he's like, if I ever see him again, I'm going to kill him. Just because of how he treated you. So, I mean, my brother's my best friend in the whole world. And if we ever do decide to talk about it publicly on another platform, like, I don't know. But we've had plenty of opportunities in the past, and we've never felt like it was necessary. And, you know, for me, up until hearing Carol and Holly talk about it, I was like, okay, maybe I deserve to talk about this too and get some things off my chest.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think for me anyway, witnessing everything play out, at the very least, something that's come from this is the survivors of all this seem to be, you know, putting differences aside and coming together. And you and Carol have spoken, so at least we've, you know, something's coming from it, if that makes sense. I mean, do you think you and Carol would have spoken anytime soon if, you know, we weren't doing this series? Do you think that it's benefited up to this point in any way?
I think we've talked a couple of times or texted a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reached out to Carol like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When she left, because my mom said Carol left, and I was like, what? Like, I never expected that to happen. And I just found her on Facebook, and I just said, hi, I'm so happy for you. Something along those lines. And then we started just catching up.
I heard from your brother a few times, so.
Yeah, so it's small, just catching up. I mean, I think when you've gone through something like that together, I think we'll always be somewhat in each other's lives, whether that's catching up every couple of years or whatever. But this kind of thing really bonds you.
Talk about what I mean. You reached out to me, and I'm really glad that you did. But I had secretly followed you because I wanted to know that you were okay, and you know all that. But what do we talk about? We have one thing in common. I don't want to talk about that, you know.
Well, I just be catching up about whatever our lives are doing.
Yeah.
You know, because it's important to talk about things other than what we went through together.
Yeah.
I think it's hard as well. I understand what you're saying there, Carol. Like, it's difficult to gather the courage to sort of take that step forward when, you know, you've both come from such a massive history of control with Russ, and you know, I can understand why it would have been difficult for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, like I say, for me, a lot of the stuff that's coming out when we started this series off, you know, the tone of it's completely changed, and the sort of views on Russ McKinney have completely changed. And to be as weird as it sounds, like I say, I think this is all going to be, a benefit to the Russ McKinney story and to his community and other communities. Just hearing all of your guys' stories coming from you and laying some of these myths to rest, because there was a lot of myths and a lot of people were caught up in it, and it spans a long time. But I don't understand how anyone could be questioning Carol's legitimacy. Like, I don't understand where that would stem from, at all. We've literally got Russ's, biological child here backing up what's been said. Like, where's the doubt? I don't understand. So I really hope that anybody who had any doubts about any of this understands the realities of what it's like to be trapped in an abusive relationship, and the realities of growing up in an abusive family have long-term lasting effects. And, moving forward into next week, we're going to be towards the end of next week, we're going to start looking at the main subjects that have been brought up, the mental health side of things being one of them, and really sort of trying to get some answers as to how bad could it get for Russ, and how, what could be the next move for him, because I don't know where to go unless Russ is willing to talk, unless Russ comes forward and decides to say something. Because we're not going to just a couple of months from now, if he thinks things are going to die down. I mean, we're going to have to stick with this until we get a result. I mean, McKinney Manor has to go. Russ needs to get help. I mean, that has to be the end result. Surely the manor is going to go regardless, but certainly there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed, mainly issues with Carol's past and financial stuff and all this kind of things. That I think these things need to be addressed. They have to be, because they're part of the story. They're loose ends, to put it another way. And I think this is a prime opportunity to start working on all these points. Now that the spotlight is back on, not just on YouTube, but in the mainstream as well. So, it's worth trying for sure. Now, Josh, have you got anything else you want to add with regards to questions to Lindsay or Carol before we start heading towards that 2 hour mark?
Oh yeah, that's right. So Jesus, it's already been 2 hours. This is wicked.
It's crazy.
So my question, this is generally for anybody involved. If okay, so obviously we all know Russ is not going to get help on his own or be coerced into it. But if we were to come up with enough stuff to prove that there's grounds for an arrest or at least some sort of investigation, do you think that if he were arrested, or obviously nobody wants to see their dad arrested, not knowing for sure what's going on, but if he were to get arrested or in prison or whatever you want to say, do you think that would help him in the slightest, or are there any programs inside of these places that he could get that could help him?
No, but also he doesn't need to be arrested. He needs to be
I was just going to say
somewhere that's more about mental health.
Yeah, even if he was to be arrested, I don't think it would go the mental health road if he was arrested. For sure.
But I mean, no, I don't even think that would help anything, unfortunately.
Well, he's also said to me that, because the police came and watched footage at the house when contestants would call the cops. He said, if I go to jail, I will kill myself. I will not go.
And how often did contestants call the cops? And what were the grounds?
An ass beating. I mean, like Laura Brotherton ended up in the ER, and he says, well, she's only there because she wants drugs. She was beat to a pulp.
I actually think I seen. Let me just double check that. Hang on one second.
People went to the papers and people went to the police, a few times. And then, people would witness the kidnappings, and I ring, the doorbell rings, and Russ is off doing his hunt, and I open the door, and there's like 18 policemen there with guns drawn. I'm like, Okay.
What does he say when all that happens? I mean,
He
doesn't he
wasn't
know
there.
that something's wrong?
He wasn't there, and then the police look at me and they're like, "Oh, it's you," because they've been there so many freaking times.
Yeah.
You know, and then they
Like,
took
what was the police's
Laura
first
Brotherton.
reaction to, like, how did you guys even explain what the hell you were running out of that van when they showed up?
I have pictures of the van being pulled over by the police. So
it got to
They
the
were
point
like,
where they seen
"What
you
is
guys on the
it?"
road and knew somebody was getting beat up.
yep.
That's ridiculous.
Yep.
And nothing was done about it, period.
Nope.
I mean,
Nope.
obviously, I mean, if somebody
Let me
signs
tell you
something they
this.
think is legal,
Russ-
but if it's not legal,
Russ can talk his way out of anything.
That's what I was gonna say.
He is a master manipulator, a professional.
The
And
police
he
would
can-
come over and they'd leave his best friends.
Yeah, and the same thing is happening where he is now because the police have been there, and all of a sudden he's got him in his back pocket. That's bullshit. They're not doing their job. So
well, I'm sorry both of you ladies had to go through any of that stuff. Just in,
Absolutely.
I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone just asked, how did the end of sorry, Jesus Christ, how did the end come to San Diego?
well, he lost his ability to pay his mortgage because he got me fired. So his little cash cow and his ability to support Holly has moved to another state. He has no option but to sell that house. Because I was paying the mortgage, the bills. I mean, he was running up his phone bill $500, $600. It was I couldn't afford to support him. Now he's bringing Holly, and she's not going to work. I couldn't support another person. I mean, even Russ by himself I couldn't support, even if he wasn't doing any of this crazy stuff, because utilities and everything are more than I make. So
yeah.
So he had no option but to shut it down. It wasn't his choice. He was forced out of staying in San Diego.
Yeah, you described that well. I have to say that was pretty much putting the nail on the head of how San Diego shut down, for sure. Now, Lindsay, have you got anything else that you want to add or touch on, just on the whole time period of you and Carol and Russ being together that you think maybe we've missed, or you want to just add in before we start winding down?
No, I don't think so. I think I've said my piece. If anyone has, hard-hitting questions that they want to know, I think more of the questions should be for Carol and Holly. I mean, I guess because they've been there for longer than I was there. But I can also answer questions. But
well, we're gonna put.
I don't know. I think
where if depending on who's available and who's willing to come back, it'd be great to have a night where people can put questions and we can dedicate some time to questions being answered. Because, like I say, these 2 hours have just flown by. So Carol, the same thing to you. Is there anything else that? And again, Carol, don't feel like you can't come back and continue your story or anything like that. Where don't feel like your time ends here. Feel free to come back and continue. But is there anything else you would like to touch on just before we end this evening's show?
I don't think so. I mean, this is all stuff that like people are like, why haven't you come forward? This last 2.5 years has been me trying to forget everything about him.
Yeah.
And my entire news feed is about him. So I don't even like to go on Facebook. It's every single thing is about him. And all these people putting him on the air and stuff like that. He should not get any publicity. He should not. He is a fraud. His haunt is a fraud. There are no other locations. That his newest story about Alabama being sold, that's a lie. Everything is a lie. And he shouldn't be allowed to continue the haunt. I would love to see it permanently shut down.
And
I wonder what he would do with himself.
I was just literally about to say, what do you think would be the effect on Russ McKamey when the final straw is pulled?
I think he would just make it again. I think he would keep doing. I think he would just start over. I really do. I think there is nothing that will stop him from doing some sort of haunt.
Well, he should go back to when it was fun. Because it was fun. In the beginning, you know, we had that huge train and all that stuff. Stories at the beginning and all those kids going through and seeing them scared and all that. That was fun. But when it started ramping up, it was freaking creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I just want to say, you know, thank you, Carol and Linda, for putting their stories forward. Lindsay, sorry, and Linda in the side chat, thank you for joining us and being so supportive of everything that's been going on with Lindsay. And
I mean, does Linda have anything to say?
Well, Linda, the door's open for you, and there's no pressure, and I'm sure Lindsay will tell you that you're here to tell your story. We're not trying to push anything or anything like that. So the door is always open. So.
I mean, I think if my mom ever were to come on, it would be repetitive because every single thing Carol and Holly said, for the most part, she experienced too. I mean, when she was listening to it and we were on the phone, she's like, it's just, yeah, it's all there. That's exactly what happened to me. That everything they're saying is true. So yeah, I mean,
I understand the repetitiveness of, but again, it goes back to survivors and not just the 6-year-old Lindsay, but the woman in her 30s who's got the 6-year-old Lindsay who's trying to break free.
True.
All of these little threads that make up the bond that Russ had. There is millions of people going through this, and just to hear people who've been through it inspires so many. I just also a couple of super chat questions here. Cara, I clearly agree with you. I want the fun haunt back. There you go. And sending much love and support, Lindsay and Carol, both of your amazing inspiration to all of us survivors. You see, right there, that's the thing, and it's really, really important. As far as I'm concerned, the Russ McKamey factor of this is really dying off for me. It's the survivor story, the inspiration, and the moving forward. How can we help people who've gone through what you went through? Because that, surely, if nothing else, we can put down to a positive spin on.
My mom just said, my mom said his singing used to be everything.
Oh yeah. Does anyone have recordings of your dad's pre you guys leaving from a time
They're
where
probably all with him still?
Yeah.
There's one on YouTube of a decapitated head if you want to check that one out.
Nice.
Huh.
No, I'm really interested in seeing and hearing and viewing Russ McKamey during his I got my kids here, I've got my missus here. Surely the most stable, normal portion of his life. I would love if there's any windows into that. I mean, it's just.
I mean, my mom and my dad met at a single parent support group, which my father would never do now. No. He went to a single parent support group because he had a son and was a single parent. He probably was doing it to pick up chicks, honestly, knowing my dad. But the fact that he did that is, my mom says, I don't know if I can relive it.
And that's really completely understandable.
That's really fucking sad, Mom. So sad. But so he was a completely different person when my mom knew him.
I mean, when I fell in love with him, he would sing to me all the time. He would sing
to me too.
I know.
I can't even listen to yesterday.
Are we talking about the same Russ McKamey here? Are we talking about the same Russ McKamey?
He would come to my musicals at high school and stuff like that, and he would sing to me all the time. And Lindsay, the three of us, he would be singing in the living room, and he would dance with me and stuff like that. That was like the first year. That was the first year, and then it was all gone.
Like I know what
some of my favorite memories. Sorry, I know some of my favorite memories are my dad's with his guitar. We were at my mom and my dad's first apartment when they were still together, and he would sing to me. He would sing "Yesterday" and "Blue Suede Shoes" and "Walking in Memphis" and all these songs. And he used to make me like CDs because he had a karaoke machine.
I still have one of his machines. I mean, one of his CDs.
And
I still have them.
He would make me CDs of him singing songs, and
Yep.
you know, it's so funny because you'd think that now I wouldn't even be able to hear those songs like when they come on. Like Yesterday is a big one that comes on a lot from the Beatles. But whenever I hear it, I just get the biggest smile on my face, and which is so weird. You'd think I'd be like, turn it off. But I just think I'm just like, there were times when I was really little, when he was with my mom, things were okay.
And like, I think Ron can agree with this. Like, we're happy we can hear this. Like, this is not something that we can see on social media or anything like this about Russ, because it's not what people want to hear, but it's something that Ron believes in strongly, and we need to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I have no problem you guys telling the happy stories. If you guys want to come back on and
there's not many of them.
Because after the first year that I lived with him, he would not sing in front of me anymore. But he would sing to other women, but he would not sing to me anymore.
That is just, I really can't wait until somebody who can explain, who's got literal bits of paper that say they understand this shit, can come and explain the mindset of Russ McKinney, because I feel like I'm losing it trying to understand all this. Like, the windows that Lindsay's talked about when she's had these little moments, these year-long honeymoon grace periods of normality and romance and perfect manness.
It's like terrible. A different person. It's like Jekyll and Hyde is what my mom always says.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then, he would start messing up and revealing himself. And I'd be like, whoa, dude, no. And he would send me roses at work. And like people at work are like, why are you getting those? I'm like, you don't want to know. You just don't even want to know.
Linda, one thing I will say to you, if you don't ever want to come on the show, if you felt like you wanted to write a statement or anything like that, you've that option's there as well. I just don't want you to feel like you have to come on here to be heard. You don't at all. In fact, we do a series called the Survivor series, where survivors write out their stories and we have them voice acted, and that works just as much of an inspiration. If you decided you wanted to do that, if that's too much as well, I'm not pressuring you, I'm just throwing out options.
My mom is actually an incredible writer. My mom is actually an incredible writer, and I've been trying to inspire her to start writing again, and write a book about all of this. So if anyone out there knows any publishers or anything like that, I know my mom's working on
you
something.
Get it published, Linda. You go on Kickstarter and you get all this. The tens of thousands of people will fund this in a fucking heartbeat. Okay, massively would fund that.
She's an incredible author.
Forget even about the Russ McKinney side of it all. Just get some hype in the side chat for getting Linda back on writing. That is something you should be looking into for sure. And you want to be,
my mom's life has been too much controlled by Russ fucking McKinney, and it's time for her to take that shit back, because she's a badass. She is, and she deserves to have. To be heard, because she's never been heard in her entire life. No one listens to her, and she fucking deserves it, because she rocks.
We all hear you, Linda.
We love you, Linda. Linda.
Yeah.
10 points for Linda.
And that doesn't end with these videos. You've said this again and again, but I'm just making sure you understand, Linda. We're here for you tomorrow. We're here for you in a month. We're here for you next year. We're here for you in whenever you want to do that Kickstarter. Let's do it. Get yourself some, some positive out of all of this craziness, because that's really my biggest thing now, is trying to figure out how to.
It's these women. It's Carol and it's Linda and it's Russell's mom. They deserve to have everything in this fucking world after what they went through. Truly. Yeah. They are all incredible women who, if they want to express themselves in any way, in any platform, they should be able to without any fear. These are just, I'm so lucky to know these incredible women.
Yeah.
Truly.
Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you to Carol, to Lindsay, to Josh, to Linda in the side, to, of course, my trusty sidekick, Cap, and Everyone that's been joining us, everyone that's been doing the aftercare with people on the Discord. I can't thank you enough for that. And we will be continuing.
Let's all just take a big breath.
Yeah, fucking hell. Do you know how many
baby
big
Jesus
breaths I've had? Do you know how many big breaths I've had this week?
Let's go take a deep breath and I'll go get ourselves a glass of wine. How about that?
I think we're going to need more than wine. I think we're past the wine.
Why would you give Carol the shit box?
I know. It's Cap. It's your fault for actually ducking in and out, Josh. If I'm being honest, you kept dropping. But I can't help it. I'm very sorry. You're
blame it on the new guy.
Blame it on the new guy. Dan was here, we'd be blaming Dan, but Dan's not here tonight, so we can't blame Dan. But listen, everyone that's joined us and been following this, thank you so much for the support. It means a lot to me that we can do things on sensitive topics like this and come together as a community. I know there's been differences within the McKinney Manor community, and I want everyone who has crushed the beef to give yourself a pat on the back, because this is a much bigger story and there's devastating key players that we're obviously touching on that really have shed new light on this whole situation. So if anyone would like to come and join, sorry, on you go.
Oh, sorry. I also just want to say really quick, if Carol, if you ever wanted to make a GoFundMe or anything to try and get some of your money back so that you can live the best possible life you can, I'm sure people would be more than happy to donate.
Don't worry.
There was a GoFundMe to get me here. A lot of people contributed money.
Rock on. That's great.
To get me here, because I had nothing. I had no money.
Yeah.
Well,
so
just
I'm grateful to everybody who helped me get here. And this story, I have gotten dozens of messages from people who are mental abuse survivors, and I really thank them for reaching out to me and talking to me about it. And at least something positive is coming out of all of this.
Well, this is what I'm saying. This very quickly became what I thought was going to be a bashing of a mentally sound individual with some fucked up tendencies has turned. I mean, the whole narrative of this has changed, based on the realities that you guys have brought forward. So this is the truth about Russ McKinney. This is the reality. Everything else you're seeing going around claiming to be the truth, it's just hearsay. It's Googling. It's lazy journalism. And any other people that want to run stories or anything like this, feel free to contact the admin team. I know a lot of the people involved in this are kind of, using our Discord as a
your puppies.
Yes, Carlo.
Oh, is that
your puppies.
She wants to cuddle, and I can't right from here.
Carol, is there any charities that you are involved with dogs that you want to plug a little bit, and we'll make sure we do that a little bit better?
Well, I only do one charity, and that's something else we should have talked about, was how I became Operation Greyhound in El Cajon, California, became my charity. Is I really wanted my charity to be Feeding America, and I just felt really slighted by them.
I heard that on a live stream. That was that's like the only fact in this whole story that I can be like, oh yeah, I know that one. I know this one. Yeah. So they're a very small operation. They get overlooked because of the bigger Greyhound rescues. Okay.
All the bigger Greyhound rescues get dog food donations and everything. That's where the dog food thing came from.
Well, listen, when we put our videos out, I'll make a nice big fat advert to go at the start.
Operation Greyhound.
Operation Greyhound.
Operation Greyhound. El Cajon.
Promote
they rock.
Links and everything like that. When I come to collate this whole series and change all the thumbnails so that it says, Carol's story, and it makes sense when you look at it, and I do all the descriptions again, I'll put the Greyhound link and all of that as well, and the mental health stuff, and everything will be in there. But I really want to try and, if we can do some good, then great. Let's do that. Let's support the Greyhounds. Let's look into the mental health. Let's look into all of it. Let's do what we can to inspire people who are currently in the situation you were in to break free from it all. So just before I wrap up, has anybody else got anything else they want to touch on? I don't like feeling like I'm wrapping everybody up. So if there's anything else you guys want to touch on, let me know. If not, then I'll begin my
Descent.
my descent into the evening. But listen, thank you.
I want my Gordon Ramsay impersonation. You promised.
I need to.
Somebody paid good money for Carol to give a Gordon Ramsay impression. I'm sorry, but you guys missed that.
Oh,
just saying.
Someone paid good money for Carol.
Somebody paid $2 for a Gordon Ramsay Gordon Ramsay impression. So
That's
we need that.
money.
I don't know, Gordon. I tell you what. Can I just for the sake of
Gordon Ramsay meme? Just find a Gordon Ramsay meme.
Let me do that.
Raw. It's fucking raw.
You want
Yes.
You want some classics? Oh, I can hit you with the classics, baby. I can hit you with a classic real fucking good. Right, let me get a packet of Cheetos. This is going to be our undercooked salmon, okay? This is our undercooked salmon, and Matty is fucked it up, right? So, Matty, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this, Matthew? You piece of pig shit! It's raw! It's raw, that's what it is! It's raw! Get out of my kitchen! Out of my kitchen! That's it. That's all. I've just made a mess.
Yes.
That was good. Ron, are you in Edinburgh? Where are you?
I can't tell you that for security reasons. I'm in New
All
Zealand.
right.
Wales.
Okay, he's in Wales.
In New Zealand.
Good to know.
But you're Scottish, correct?
Yeah, looking
Welsh.
back, smashing a packet of Cheetos across a video editing suite probably wasn't the best thing to do, but at least you all get a laugh. This is not going to be a thing at the end of each of these fucking streams. I just want to say,
yes, it is.
What is on your walls?
Ron,
what's on your walls?
I make knives, and I'm a leather worker by trade.
Oh, okay. I was like, are those guns?
No.
Okay, I hate guns. I hate guns, so I would have tapped out immediately.
A lot of children's artwork. There's a lot. If you keep going further this way, it just becomes a museum of a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old's.
That's how it should be.
Oh man!
Not everyone has a Cap green screen.
Yeah, well, not everyone's got a YouTuber background like Cap has. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, look at that. That's what people want to see on YouTube. They don't want to see.
That's a Twitch background right there.
I was going to say, yeah, they don't want to see severed sheep head and massive amounts of stabby things. So yeah, it's good times. It's good times. We're all having. I really wish I hadn't smashed those Cheetos. Like everywhere I move, all I can hear is Cheetos crushing under my arms.
So you gotta. If there's one thing I learned from my father is you gotta go big or go home.
Yeah, well, listen.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, listen. We just keep setting these stupid challenges, and I'll keep wrecking bags of Cheetos, and we'll conquer the world one step at a time. It's a good times. It's good times. But listen, it was worth it for seeing the smiles it put on everyone's faces. I'm quite happy to facilitate the smiles. So thank you once again. We've got doggy. We've got the dog is on. I'm making you full screen, Carol.
Puppy.
Oh.
Hi, baby.
Yes, insert Greyhound plug now.
Oh my gosh.
There you go.
Adorable.
Yep.
So yeah, listen, thank you everybody for just the support you've shown, and please come and join us on the Discord. I'm gonna go and do a VC now for at least a half an hour or an hour. Anyone wants to come and join us, come and do that. Any other channels, you know who you are, that are out in the side chat there. If you're looking for resources or sharing of anything, come and join me on the Discord, and we'll just, that's the best way to do this. So thank you for coming, thank you for watching, thank you for the support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you tomorrow night for what is. Oh man, there's fucking Cheetos all over the place.
Look at the baby.
Like all over the lighting rig here is just. It just looks like a Cheeto bomb went off. Fuck. It's not like
You're
one
making
of
me want Cheetos. Fuck.
Well, I don't know.
Cheetos and wine.
Cheetos.
Came from. I don't know.
Cheetos and wine.
A total cliche of a fucking individual right now. Do you know what I'm saying? Smoking my cigarettes with my Cheetos. But listen, that's just the way we roll. But it's a mess, and I have no regrets. So thank you very much.
Dude, you're like 75% American.
listen, I'd spent the first 2 years of my life growing up in Florida, so it was
What?
yeah. Well, listen,
That explains the Cheetos.
Man.
Everyone wants to hear about Ron's.
Yeah, I want to hear about Florida. That's what I want to hear about. I want to hear some stories.
Yeah, me too.
Well, listen, we'll touch more on that next time. And again, everyone, the platform's open to you. Linda, thank you for joining us in the side chat. Carol,
Thanks, Ron. You rock.
Carol, listen, just know, Carol, that the door's always open, and we'll touch base tomorrow just to make sure everything's hunky-dory. I'd quite like to send you the Discord link, and we'll talk you through all of that as well, just so you've got the support team. That's super important. And yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you for.
Good night, everyone.
We'll see you in the next one. For me, Ron Swanson, as always, be safe out there.